return to your seat if you would like to participate in the business meeting. Make sure you don't run away right away unless you have an emergency or something. And then, we're not locking you in or anything, I promise. All right. So today we have Jeanne. Jeanne grew up wanting a farm for raising her kids, animals, and happy and healthy meat and produce to feed her family. Along the way, others asked if she would raise meat for their families as well. So Telderers.RainbowsEndFarm was born. Jeanne had not grown up eating lamb, but when she was asked to raise lamb for her customers, she researched breeds and chose Icelandic sheep for her farm, and her fiber journey began there. So now she can't imagine her farm without these animals. Quick reminder, everyone, please silence your phones if you can as we welcome Jeanne.
Hi, thank you everyone for having us here this evening. Very happy to be here. As we said, we have Rainbow's End Farm. We do organically fed and pastured meats, and part of that then became.
I think you'd have to pull the microphone up. You're much taller.
Okay, sorry. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. And if you have a question in the middle of it, feel free to raise a hand and I can answer them. So we had customers that wanted lamb, and I had not grown up eating lamb. And we try to do as little grain as possible. We try to have the animals on pasture, and so I didn't want to have to get grain for our sheep. And in researching breeds and talking to other people that had sheep, I'd never heard of Icelandic sheep. Do many of you, have you heard of that? Okay. They were originally brought to Iceland by the Vikings, and the Icelanders decided to close their borders. No sheep in, no sheep out to prevent disease. In the 90s, there was a woman, a former Icelander, Stefania, who lived in Canada, and she had been raising sheep, and just none of the breeds that she could find in Canada compared to the sheep that she remembered from growing up. And so she petitioned the government to let her export sheep. And the first sheep were allowed out of Iceland in the 90s. They went to Canada, the 80s. The first sheep came to the US in the 90s. So they weren't very well known. The Icelandic sheep do very well on pasture and browse. There's a famous saying that sheep graze and goats browse. They do both. The neighbors that I talked to always ended up with bottle babies. They had more of the commercial breed of sheep. Icelandic sheep are known for being amazing mothers. Bottle babies are cute, but when you're having to feed 2 hours around the clock, not so much fun. So I was not looking to add more work to my workload. They have great fleece for hand spinners. They have a dual coat. The inner coat, if you split the fiber, is soft enough for baby clothes. A lot of times then they'll take the tog, which is the outer layer, and use it for weaving. It makes a very strong work. When it's the lambs, the fleeces are so soft that most of our spinners spin them together. There were a lot of traits about the Icelandic sheep that sounded too good to be true. And I thought, well, if half of this is true, they're still an amazing breed to have here. It's turned out they're all true. I was, of course, a horse girl, and I wanted to be able to have chicken and pork for our family. But these sheep, if I get rid of most other things, I have to keep. They have amazing personalities. It's like Christmas when they lamb, and we just finished lambing in April. They're multiple colors, they're multiple patterns, so I never know what they're gonna come out looking like. And the gray lambs come out black, and they have what they call sugar lips. Their lips are just white, and that's the only indication that they're not gonna stay black, they're gonna turn silver or gray. And we have a slideshow on a laptop back there. Please look, we've got lots of amazing sheep pictures. But about 3 years after we got these sheep, prior to getting the sheep, we had gone to Wisconsin Sheep and Wool to take their beginning shepherd class to learn about raising sheep. And about 3 years after we got the sheep, they have this big fleece judging show. Has anybody been up to Sheep and Wool? Okay, has anybody gone to the fleece judging? Okay, I had no idea how interested people were. There's like 30 people rapidly taking notes, and they're probably all spinners, and maybe they knit too, about the different fleeces. when we started going, the judges knew about it but weren't so familiar. As the years have gone, my daughter used to enter in the junior competition, and she'd almost every year get either a grand champion or reserve grand champion of the junior competition. In 19, that was my little feather in the cap. I mean, we always do very well. The Icelandic have a looser wool, and so they don't hold VM in as much vegetative matter. And we get these lovely storms in Wisconsin in August, and it just washes those fleeces so clean. Sometimes the judges ask if we washed our fleece because that's against the rules, but they're just so lovely and clean. When they're shorn, they don't hold together like other fleeces, which was frustrating to my shearer at first because he's used to shearing sheep and throwing it up on the skirting table and having it look like sheepskin. And the Icelandics, we shear twice a year. They grow that much wool. We shear them right after lambing, and that's the spring fleece, and there will be a little bit more lanolin and a little bit more vegetative matter in those. But the fall fleeces, when you get your hair cut and you have locks just falling, that's what the fall fleeces are like. And so you just have to pick up all these lovely locks of wool and put it up on the skirting table. But I got off those black lambs with the sugar lips. When we go there, those are some of the most popular fleeces because people would like to spin a variegated yarn. Their fleece will have grown 6 to 7 inches by the time we shear in the fall, and we'll have 2 inches of black on the end, 2 inches of like charcoal, and then 2 inches of silver or brown. You can have a morid gray or a black gray, and so you just have this beautiful variegation. And some of the sheep's then as adults will still have different tones in their fleeces. We have a couple of sheepskins back there that will show a little bit of that. We do woof. Does anybody know what woof is?
No.
It's a website that hooks up farmers that farm sustainably and organically like we do, who are willing to train people who want to learn, house and feed them, with people who want to learn about that type of farming and may not have access to it. And so we've hosted about 100 woofers in the last 4 years. We actually have a young woman here from France now, and we have somebody coming from Austria and another young man coming from France later this summer. But we have Evelyn in the back, who is a knitter, and she made this beautiful shawl that she's wearing. And so get up and model. You should come up and show them your shawl. They want you to come up and show the shawl. Isn't this gorgeous?
It's a Stephen West.
So Evelyn didn't have any knowledge about sheep or the raising of them, and she loves the different fibers. She loves the yarn. She also spins, and so she wanted to get a closer connection to the sheep. And so she came to our farm, and she's been there now for 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
2.5 weeks, yeah.
Okay.
That worked so much, oh my gosh.
But she's also been a wonderful help because I would love to spin. I would love to knit. I've been taught how to knit, and you know, they tell me I'm doing well, and then I put it down and I get busy and I pick it up a month later and I'm like, what was I doing? And so unfortunately, I haven't ever gotten accomplished enough to be able to knit or crochet. I've been taught that too. So it's nice to have fiber artists at the farm who can then tell me from a knitter, spinner, crocheters, weavers' point of view, what you like, what you're looking for, what's of interest to you. And so Evelyn and then my daughter Marissa, who's also back there, helped me decide what to bring tonight to show everyone. So as I said, some of the traits with the Icelandic are they're amazing mothers, and they are. We've always had German Shepherds. Now we have a couple of herding dogs because my kids, who were my helpful herders, have now grown and left the coop. So we had to have somebody to help, and so we have a couple of herding dogs. But my moms, if my dogs got within 10 feet of their babies. Now, Icelandic sheep are horned or not. We chose to do not. I didn't need to risk them getting horns tangled in fencing or the feeders or getting hit by them. But even the polled girls are not afraid, and they would hit my German Shepherds and knock them back 10 feet. And the little Border Collie rescue that I got that was so eager to help me got hit twice and it's like, nope, I'm done. I'm not in there. So they protect their babies. They're known for being gourmet meat. The Icelanders were trying to increase their exports and so had all sorts of restaurants and chefs over to try their products. And Whole Foods actually had an exclusive contract with Iceland to export all of their lamb into their stores, that they felt that their lamb was so good. They also are a dairy breed. They have a shorter period that you can milk, but they produce quite a bit of milk. And I was not interested in milking, but I thought that would help the lambs to grow. And our babies are about 5 pounds and they're about this big when they're born. That's April. In 6 months, when they go to freezer camp, the ones that are going somewhere else, they're about 100 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And I do not feed any grain. That is purely the mama's rich milk and the good pasture. Raising animals on pasture regenerates the pasture. That constant little nipping, mowing stimulates the plants to grow. All animals have parasites. Sheep have some worms too. By constantly moving them, I'm trying to help break that cycle. So eggs come out, worms crawl up the grass. That takes like 3 days. So when I move them, the worms have nobody to ingest them. The sun fries them in the grass, and so we just keep moving around the pasture. It's a little time consuming because I'm constantly leapfrogging fences, but the sheep, through no prior knowledge of mine, just luck, have learned that when I clap, they get to go somewhere new. So it's kind of fun. I don't have to like chase the sheep forward. I can just open a fence and clap and they all come running. So we have a Facebook page. We have an Instagram, thanks to my daughter and my lovely woofers, because I am not techie either. They have posted videos on different things. So if you want to see more pictures of the sheep or them running, they have videos to see there. Oh, sorry, I didn't know if somebody had a question. So are there questions about the sheep, about their fiber? Yes?
How big is your herd?
Well, I had bred 20 ewes and had 3 rams, so I had about 24 adults. They typically twin. With 20 ewes, I would have 1 to 3 sets of triplets. And so after lambing, I would get to over 60 animals. Well, 60 animals eat a lot of grass. And so we also make hay for the winter. And we have a woven wire perimeter fence. And so we typically leapfrog the sheep around the outside. And whenever we get to gates, then we put fencing up in the ditch, and they clean up the ditches too. But I was having to move them so much and I wasn't able to make as much hay. I tried to cut my numbers. So I went down to 16 ewes to breed. The first year that I did that, I don't know if our pastures have been really rich that summer or something. I ended up with 5 sets of triplets out of my first 11 ewes. So it didn't quite work out the way I intended it to. But they are amazing moms. You know, you think, oh, triplets, they only have an udder with 2 teats. You're going to have to supplemental feed. Nope, they produce enough milk. In fact, the past lambing that we went through was my worst yet, my roughest. Generally, they lamb well on their own. Just like all babies, every now and then we don't come out the way we're supposed to. Icelandic lambs are supposed to dive out through 2 little hooves and their nose, and they just go. Every now and then you'll have 1 leg back, which makes it harder for mom. And sometimes we have 2 legs back, which makes it really hard for mom and really hard for me. The first time I had that, I called my vet. It was a Palm Sunday. We were outside in the rain, and I'm like, what you're supposed to do according to the books is push them back in and then grab the feet and pull it all out. Well, when they're that far that the head's out, it's not going back in. And he's like, you're just gonna have to pull. And honestly, I'm a pretty strong person. I pulled and I pulled and I was afraid I was gonna pop that baby's head off. And thankfully I didn't. But yeah, that's not a nice birth presentation. Yeah, they produced so much milk. I had 2 moms this year who by the time they lambed, their udders were so full, their teats were on the ground. And so my babies, Icelandic lambs, are so vigorous. They're up within like 5 minutes and they're fine. And I love the knickers that go back and forth between the moms and the babies. And they're bumping that udder and, trying to get that milk to start flowing. But the thing is they got to get that nipple in their mouth. And when the nipple's on the ground, that's not where they're looking. So we ended up having to milk out more ewes this year than I've ever had to do, and then bottle feed until we got that udder to shrink up enough that the babies could get the nipples. I had one ewe that was lopsided, and one side was way low and the other side wasn't, and so I milked out that side. Just out of curiosity, what do you think ounce-wise? And I didn't strip it clean. I got out of that one side.
20 ounces.
24.
I'm sorry?
24.
Very close. Well, it could be. My husband had a soda bottle that was 20 ounces and I had too much for it. So I didn't actually measure the extra, but yeah, one side had that much milk. Yeah. Other questions?
So I'm not sure how to ask this, but how many times can a ewe birth? Like, how many times do they have babies? At
So-
what age do they stop having?
So they're a seasonal breeder and they have heat cycles in the fall that go through April. And so they only lamb once a year. There's some breeds of sheep that can lamb more than once a year.
Okay.
Icelandics can lamb until their early teens.
Wow.
And that was part of my problem this year is I had 2 girls who were born on my farm. And, you're not supposed to be attached, but I'm attached. And they've never had problems lambing. In the fall, you have new cute ones that you want to keep. And you're like, well, who do I get rid of? What do I do? And I decided to keep them. And they both had triplets this year. And unfortunately, I don't know if pregnancy toxin is the same thing with adults, but or humans. Sometimes when they have the 3 babies, the babies take up so much space that mama's stomach shrinks so small, she can't get in enough nutrition to feed everybody. And so those babies start sucking nutrition out of mom. And so my 2 girls, both were huge and both ended up with pregnancy toxemia. And we brought them in and I'll generally supplement with really good alfalfa hay or alfalfa pellets. Well, the one girl, I don't know how, but she hurt her leg and was limping. And so I had some issues with that. And the girl that I brought in to keep her company, unfortunately, it's just a rubber feed pan, just this tall, but because she was so big, she couldn't pick up her feet enough and overnight got her foot stuck. And I found her in the morning, like Superman, legs out because the pan had slipped out behind and I was never able to get her back up on her feet. So I ended up losing her and her babies. So yeah, that's hard. You try and, whoa. Sorry, wow.
I have a question.
That was hard. Yes.
So if you had 15 or 16 ewes
Mhm.
and 2 males, do they take care of all 16?
Yeah, so they could take care of a lot more than that. And because I don't want related, mixed breeding, right? Yeah. So we make sure that we have different breeding groups. So we have different fenced areas and we have 3 rams. Each ram, gets 5 to 6 girls. But they would be fine with quite a few more than that. And it's interesting because they typically are busy at night, let's say. Because I would watch and I was panicking my first couple of years. They're not doing anything. I'm not going to have lambs. but I'd find my rams in the morning, like flat out on the ground. Then there'd be panic because I've got 20 acres. So, you're up at the house, you're like, oh, he's flat. Oh no. And I'd clap because I knew they'd respond to that and nothing. And I'd have to go out there and I'd be like, hey, whistling and making noise. And it wouldn't be till I got a couple feet away and then one eye would open. What do you want? I had a rough night. So, yeah, and we've never had anyone not have lambs in the spring, so they're doing it. I don't know, I'm gonna embarrass myself, but they are just like whatever, the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And so they've got their own girls. But I've had a couple of guys that will go through my 5-strand electric because those girls are better. And I literally watched one of my rams go through a 5-strand electric fence. So the strands are this far apart, so he got hit pretty good with the charge, and it'll knock me down if I hit it. So it's a good charge. He goes through the fence and boom, he paralyzes his back end. And so he's crawling by his front legs to the next section of fence, dragging his back end. And right before he gets to the fence, he can get up and those back legs move. And he goes to the next fence, and same thing. And he's like this. And he gets to the fence where the next girls are, and it's woven wire, so he can't do anything. Although I have had sheep get bred through the woven wire fence. It's supposed to be like this, and with the fence, it's gotta be like this. And so now I have to put electric on both sides of my fence to keep the boys from thinking they can do this, and to keep those little girls from thinking they can do this. You can breed them at 6 months if they're what they say is 80% full size. I've just gotten to the point that, I have enough babies from my 16 mamas that the 3 to 5 replacement babies that I keep, I don't breed the first year. But sometimes they have other plans. And yes, where there's a will, there's a way, right? Did you have a question?
I do.
Yeah.
So, this is back to the horns or half horns.
Mhm.
Male and female both?
Both have horns, but the boys have just these big, they look like mountain sheep. And in fact, people call my sheep goats because they're a mountain breed of sheep, so they kind of look like mountain goats. But the rams will have these big, beautiful curling horns. I mean, it was very tempting to do it. The girls will have horns that kind of go up and then back a little bit. But
Both your male, none of your sheep have.
we only keep the ones that are polled, but the horns can be a recessive gene. And so there have been times where the recessive genes get together and I end up with rams or sheep with horns, but I choose not to keep them. So the few times that we had them with horns, when Icelandic sheep do not have a barber pole worm in Iceland. And so that's my biggest negative with my sheep, is they're more susceptible to this worm. So we check eyes. It's called a famancha. If you look at the color of the inside of the eyelid, and it should be medium to dark red. If it's lighter than that, it means that they've got a worm load that's making them anemic, and you could end up losing the animal. And so we worm with garlic, apple cider vinegar, molasses, and diatomaceous earth, which are natural antiparasitics. If I get to the point that I have someone where they're light pink, I will use the chemical dewormer, just because there were 2 summers in a row that we had very cool, wet summers. And so the grass grew really fast and we didn't have that blazing sun to, kill the worms, and they got reinfested, and I lost 5 lambs 2 summers in a row to that. And yes, my animals are for meat in the end, but I want them to have a good life and run around and do what they're supposed to do. We have pigs on pasture, and everybody said you have to wring their noses because otherwise they'll rip up the soil. Well, we can need to rejuvenate our pastures anyhow, so they get to run away. So I don't like to lose animals to things where, I could have done something to prevent it. So, another question.
What do you mean by polling?
Hold is no horns.
So bred that way or they're cut off?
No, they're bred that way.
Okay.
Mhm. And you had a question back there?
Yeah, are you a veterinarian yourself? You sound like you know so much. Or do you
Um,
have-
I was a little girl who thought about being a veterinarian and decided I'd gone to school enough. There aren't as many large animal vets as there used to be. And when we did the beginning shepherd classes, there's common rules about sheep. A sick sheep is a dead sheep. Don't waste your money calling the vet. Sheep are just prey animals. You know, they'll just stand there and wait till they're eaten. Well, with my dogs, they've already proved they're not prey animals. I mean, they are prey animals, but they're not going down without a fight. And it's the same thing with illness with my sheep. I've had vets come out and say, you might as well just put it down, they're not gonna make it. Well, if I see the light of fight in their eye, I'm gonna keep fighting for them. So the Icelandic Sheep Breeders Group shares a lot of good information, just because vets aren't trained as much in sheep. And so you need to be an advocate for your animals and do what you can. Did somebody over here have a question? Yes,
Do you have any predators in your near area?
there's coyotes. There was a mountain lion on somebody's trail cam 2 summers ago. And they could easily clear our perimeter fence. We have a woven wire fence to keep dogs and coyotes out. So yes, there are predators, and actually we have bald eagles now, which bald eagles can carry lambs away. But I don't think my moms would let that happen. Did somebody, yep.
You said you had a petition to get the Icelandic sheep. Are they now readily available for other sheep?
I didn't petition. A woman in Canada who had grown up in Iceland did back in the 80s to get them to Canada, and then they came to the US in the 90s. They still are what's less common breed, but they are around and you can get them. I bought some of mine from a woman who has since quit farming in Marshall, Wisconsin, and I bought some of mine from another woman who has them in Michigan. Yes?
Did you say where your farm was located and I just missed it?
I probably did not, thank you. We are in Neosho, Wisconsin, which is 700 people, so right, we're in Neosho. We're about 10 minutes west of Hartford and about 15 minutes north of Oconomowoc. And I don't know, how many of you have been up by the Amish? Okay. I've been up there too, and you have these busloads of people that come up to the Amish and they hit all these places. And when we started our farm business, there you go, pretty. I thought, you know, people are going past all these great farms in our area. How can we make people more aware of what's going on here? And so we started off hosting a multi-farm tour. So there's 6 to 7 places on a tour. Our spring one is May 20th, and that opens our farm. We have a farm store, and we have 20 local artists in our farm store. So that opens our season, and we have shearing demonstrations, spinning demonstrations, farm tours, because I was a kid, crazy city cousin who wanted to go to my cousin's farm and get up at 5 a.m. and milk cows and butcher chickens and collect eggs and make hay and all that good stuff. And not a lot of people have connections to farms anymore. And so we wanted people to be able to see. When I started woofing, my first couple of woofers were vegetarians. And I'm like, on the phone, they told me that, and I'm like, do you know what we do here? And they said, yeah, that they had become a vegetarian because they found out about commercial farming and confinement farming, and they did not support that, and they did not want to support it, so they decided to quit eating meat. And they came to our farm because they wanted to see if animals really could have a good life prior to a quick end. I'm sorry, you said something and I lost my track. Yeah, so, you know, we have the open house, so thank you. So people can come out and see how animals can be raised on pasture and actually live the life they were meant to lead versus confinement. And so that's May 20th. We have a flyer back there. And then we also have a brochure. After our first successful farm tour, I had all sorts of farms that wanted to be on it. And selfishly, since I'm doing all the work, I don't want a ton of farms on the tour because I want people to come to my farm. So I put together a trifold brochure that has 16 different farms and locations in it with a map and what they all offer, contact information, and there's a 15% off coupon on the back for one item at each location. And that's a season-long thing. So that's back there. If you want to pick one of those up, then, you know, Neosho, we're like 45, 50 minutes away from you. That's the drive. But if you want to come out, you can go say, hey, I want to hit this place, this place, this place, and there's a winery. Woohoo, we'll go there at the end. So it gives people the opportunity to know what's in the area and to make a little trip whenever they want and go wherever they'd like. Other questions? Yes?
Now, when you shear, what's the size of your fleeces? Like how many pounds the average?
The lamb fleeces are generally about 3 pounds and the adults 4 to 5. Yeah, our shearer has a love-hate relationship with our sheep. He talks about how all these big breeds, you set them on their butt and they just sit there and he gets to run his little shear over and they don't do anything. And my Atlantic are not quite so tame. They will act like they relaxed, and as soon as he relaxes, they kind of explode. There's a couple of curse words, and then he gets them back under control, and he continues spinning. In fact, for the first time, I had just all sorts of firsts this year with lambing, but when we sheared our sheep, one of my rams had been limping, and I thought he just had grown a lot of hoof and needed it trimmed. Well, he'd gotten an abscess in there, and so we had to cut it to let it bleed so it would heal. My shearer was sitting on his shoulders and trying to do the hoof and was getting thrown off. And you may have noticed I'm a larger woman, so I offered to sit on the back end of the sheep. The two of us, he's about 200 pounds, the animal. Between the two of us, we were probably close to 400 pounds. And he still kept kicking us off. Unreal how strong they are. But yeah, so they're entertaining. Yes?
What age do the sheep have to be not to go to freezer camp?
In fact, you asked how long they lamb. I'm sorry, I missed that. They can lamb into the early teens. My 2 girls were 10, and I lost one, and I managed to save one. Every single year.
Okay, wow.
So yeah, they can have lots of lambs. If I had lots of land, I only have 20 acres. And that sounds like a lot if you're in town, but not if you have animals and hay. And if I had enough money that I didn't have to have this be a business, they'd live out their life there. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So
then do you sell the meat as lamb or mutton or?
So, okay, that's an interesting, one of the things when I was reading about the sheep that sounded too good to be true is if you butcher a ram in a month without an R, then they don't taste rammy. It actually is true. And so a lot of male animals will have what they call a taint. And like with pigs, when they make sausage with a boar, they have to have like 10 sows to be able to dilute that meat enough, and then spices to make sausage to dilute that. Twice now, we have processed between 3 and 5 years old, a ram and a ewe, and then a 6-month-old lamb. And had customers who are regular lamb customers who swear ours is the best they've ever had, and we've got a lot of Greek customers who come out. Just fried the chops with in some olive oil with some salt and pepper and gave samples out, and nobody could tell the difference between the lamb chop and the ram or the ewe, in texture, in fat, in tenderness. But you can sell meat as lamb up to 12 months old. If it's older than that, it's considered mutton. So what to do? I tried to sell ewe chops, but then you have to explain that, and people are like, we used to sell to raw. A lot of people are feeding their dogs and cats raw now. So then we would sell to raw, and my raw customer would also cook it and eat it, and she said the first time that it got a little tougher and a little greasier was a 9-year-old animal. That up until then, it all tasted like lamb. But there's gyro seasoning. I like gyros. I don't know about you. Do you know that gyro meat is not just lamb? Well, no, it's lamb, it's beef, and it's pork, ground, mixed with seasoning, put on a spit, formed, and then sliced off. I did not know that. But they had gyro seasoning, so I said, could we make gyro brats? And we did samples at our open house, and then we sold gyros at our open house, and people love them. And now I have people asking me, when are you gonna get your gyro brats in the store? So that's how we use our older animals. It tastes just like the lamb, but it's a gyro brat, so I'm not saying it's lamb, it's adult, it's whatever, it's a gyro brat.
And you just use it with your lamb and the seasoning and no beef
The
or
lambs are
pork?
all sold out in the fall. I mean,
No,
I have
no.
so many customers, so the lambs are gone. But if I have older animals, or if I decide that one animal just doesn't have a fleece like I like, or the body condition that I like, and there's a younger one I want to keep, then that will go for gyro brats.
But you don't put beef or pork in it?
Nope, it's just our sheep.
Okay.
Yes?
I know that we have a nice summer season, so they can go outside and eat lots of stuff in the pasture. What happens in the winter? You said you hay.
We make hay, and they just eat hay.
Do they go out in the snow and?
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're very seldom in the barn. You know, maybe if it's 20 below, but they're Icelandic sheep. Iceland is a cold, barren area. They prefer to be outside. They have access to the barn. They can come in if they want, but
How do they handle the summer?
Yeah, how do they handle?
the summer heat is harder. So, again, if you happen to come out to our farm, we have chickens on pasture, and we built a portable house on a hay wagon frame, and we keep the sheep out with the chickens, and the sheep keep predators away from the chickens. So I don't have to lock those chickens up. They'll go in the coop at night on their own. They'll come out in the morning when they want, and the sheep keep predators away. But I have so many sheep that chicken house is not enough shade. So we have a hay wagon behind it. And I don't think we have a video, but it's just funny because we take a truck or a tractor and we hook it up to the chicken house and we start pulling the chicken house, and then there's a wagon, and then we have chickens running after it, and we have sheep following it, and we used to have a llama, so we had like this whole little parade every time I moved pastures.
Do you have a market for all of your wool that you shear?
It's growing. So we show it sheep and wool, and we're limited to 8 fleeces to enter in the competition, but there's people that know we have the fleeces, so they'll contact me and ask for certain fleeces. One of the women that runs the show had said in California, people can pre-order fleeces, and she said I should do that, and I keep thinking I should do that. And this last summer, the day before we sheared, I finally got a letter with pictures out to all the people who purchased fleeces from me and said, if you'd like to pre-order a fleece, here's what some of them look like, send me a $25 deposit, and when they're done, tell me what you're looking for and I'll show you. And yeah, we sold out of all of our fleeces in the fall between sheep and wool, the people that we put on the Facebook marketplace or the sheep fiber groups, and then the ones that I send out for yarn. We have yarn in our store, we have yarn on our Etsy site, we have yarn on our website. And 2 years ago now, the Knitting Nook in Mequon was looking for local fiber. And so they also are selling our wool there, our yarn.
Do you have people that work for you on your farm? I mean, it just seems like you have a lot going on for one lady.
Don't come in my house. You can write your name very clearly on most of the furniture. The woofers help me now that my kids are gone. My husband took a job 5 years ago. The farm started, really the impetus for starting the farm was the fact that the economy tanked in 2008, and he lost 1/3 of his income. And we've been raising meat bird chickens for ourselves and the eggs, and we were homeschooling because he was 3rd shift and would work weekends and all sorts of crazy overtime. That way we could, as a family, have family time in the mornings together and go hit the zoos and the museums and things like that. And I had people wanting me to raise stuff for them. I'm like, no. But then that happened and, what can I do that I can be home taking care of the kids and running them places and have somewhat of a flexible schedule. So that's when we started the farm. He's gone Monday through Friday, 3 weeks out of every month. My kids have grown and left, and so that's where the woofers come in. They are a big help. It depends. I have bedrooms that I can have 3, but I actually have had some who want to camp outside, so I've had as many as 5 or 6 at a time. Sometimes there's just 1. I'm going to have 3 most of the summer.
How long do they stay?
I prefer a month or more, depending upon the situation and who they are. I have a young man from Chicago who's goes to some, I don't know, prep school for high school, where they get 2 weeks off before graduation to go and do something that interests them, and then they have to come back and do a report on it. And so sustainable agriculture interests him, so he asked if he could come to our farm. So he'll be at our farm the week before the open house. He's going to one farm before then, and we'll be staying there. And because of that situation, I was okay with the week. I have some local woofers who will come out occasionally. Evelyn is here for a month. Angelique is here for 6 weeks. Samuel, who's coming from France, will be here for 2 months. Alexander, who's coming from Austria, will be here for 6 weeks. So that's what my preference is longer.
So
Do
then
they-
you have to feed these people food.
Yes. Well, guess what? I have full freezers. Between my garden and my meat, yeah, that's taken care of.
Is there a monetary exchange with your
No.
woofers?
I expect 5 to 6 hours of work, 5 to 6 days a week, depending upon if we have stuff going on. Like I just asked both girls we're gonna be doing a little bit more because we've got this open house to get ready. We have vendors to get in the store. We've got, stuff to do, but they've had their weekends off. And, I have some woofers who will put in more hours Monday through Thursday so they could take an Uber to Madison or Milwaukee and spend the weekend there and see some of the area.
Could you explain again what a woofer is?
Worldwide Organization of Organic Farming. It's a website that we pay to be a member of, and we advertise our farm. And then people who want to learn about sustainable organic agriculture get to look at the farms and ask if they can come. And then we have a discussion, and if I feel they're a good fit and we can, agree on things, then they come. And I've had, like I said, over 104 years, and up until last year, I had no complaints. I did ask 2 to leave last year, but that's pretty good odds, right?
Yeah, very good.
I'm sorry, yes?
You keep, when you have them sheared, you keep the fleeces, but I've heard that some of the shearers will take the fleece with them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who feel that there's no market for wool, and maybe not for their wool, but I don't have a problem selling mine. Yeah.
Your store that you have, is it open on a regular basis or just on?
So, starting May 20th through, I think it's November 12th this year, it's the second weekend in November. It's open every Saturday, 9 to 1. And then, because again, I'm farming and I have lots of other things to do, and I'm also not very good at sitting still. My artists, part of the requirement of being in the store is that they work 2 Saturdays out of those 6 months. And so we will advertise whoever's working that Saturday, but everybody's stuff is in the store all the time. If I do tours, which I sometimes do, I'll open the store up. If people just stop by and go, oh, is your store open? And if I'm free, I'll open the store up. When we do our meat pickups, I have a freezer and fridge in the store, and my customers come in to, get the meat then, and I open the store up. I can do it by appointment, and it's, so people can text me, my phone number's on there, and say, we're gonna be out there, is this something we can do?
So if you're not a vegetarian and you're interested in meat, how do you go about getting that?
Getting what?
Meat,
Meat,
sell meat?
buy meat.
Oh, if you're into meat, I thought you were asking me if I was into meat, how do I go about getting it, and I wasn't. Okay.
I said,
So-
if you're not a vegetarian and you
Yeah.
want the meat, how do you
Yes.
go about it?
So, that's what we had started with, and we've got a pretty loyal following there. After I finish taxes and I see how we came out last year, and then I call to find out what feed prices are, which have been, insane as well as everything else. Then I put out an order form to everybody who's on our list, and people can pre-order what they're looking for. So most of our stuff is sold out already for the year, but we did buy a sow from the farmer that I buy my little pigs from. And he's organic, and so we just, in fact, today picked up bacon, breakfast sausage, brats, ribs, chops. I think that's it. There might be something else that then we will sell in the store, because then people, like I do no nitrate bacon and no nitrate ham. So then people can try it and see if it's something that they like, and then they know if they want to order. We will probably have some chicken in the store. We do have eggs in the store. But the chickens are processed the end of June, beginning of July, and then again in the fall when the turkeys are.
I'm kind of still stuck on this, you have to feed your woofers. So who does the cooking? Because I would hate that.
So,
That'd be like my-
When I'm by myself, I get up and I eat like a 3-egg omelet. I do paperwork, computer work. Then about 10, I go out and I start chores, and I don't get back in until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And I'll come in a couple times and use the restroom and drink something. And at 8 or 9 o'clock, I think, oh, I could eat. Maybe not. And generally, us Wisconsinites, we put on some weight in the winter, and then I'm walking and not eating, and I lose it during the summer. That's the negative with woofers. Gotta be social and have lunch. Be social and have dinner. And then they want to be by the animals, which is nice, but then I'm not walking so much. So yeah, I used to feel like I had to cook everything all the time, and now I do cook. And I cook big meals, and so you better like leftovers, because if not, you can make yourself something else. But they can cook if they'd like. And in fact, Evelyn made shashuka for us and pancakes one night for dinner. And Angelique has said she's gonna make lasagna and gnocchi. I cooked a chicken this weekend, so we're gonna have chicken gnocchi. I'm killing it. Yeah, thank you, gnocchi. So if they like to cook, I used to feel like I had to do it all. And then especially when I had vegetarians there, I'm like, I got a salad. And so they offer to cook, and I found some really yummy recipes, so.
Nice. Have you had any vegetarians switch?
Yes, in fact, one of my very first woofers, he's a 17-year-old gentleman who graduated high school early and woofed across the country to California, where his grandparents were, and hardcore, no meat and stuff. But when he was there, he really liked what we did, and it was funny, how Facebook says, "Oh, you might know this person." Well, he popped up, and he looked so different than how he had been when he was first there. And so I messaged him and just said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And he goes, "I want you to know, I eat meat now, but I only make sure I know the farms it's coming from and how the animals are raised." And he goes, "You were the reason that I really learned more about this, and your farm is the reason I know animals can be raised in a way that's friendly to them, to us as the end consumer, and to the environment as well." Anybody else? Yes.
Since you had someone ask about getting product from your farm, maybe they're interested. So I buy from an organic farmer on Lake Mills, who brings it into the city. So anybody who's looking for, and you can pick what you want for, but they sell pork, beef, and chicken and eggs. Mars Valley Farms, and it's delivered to 4 places in the city once a month, and you can go pick it up. But how we found them is we went to the West Allis Farmers Market years and years ago, and you'll find organic farmers there too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was something that I was very fortunate I didn't have to do, because again, I'm not good at sitting, and you gotta load up and then go set up and then sit and then load up and go back home. My cousin does grass-fed, no antibiotic, no growth hormone beef. And so we had people that were looking for that. So I already had a customer base coming out for the beef at our farm. It's raised in central Wisconsin and processed there, but I handle the cutting instructions. It goes up, you get it all cut and wrapped the way you want, and then he brings it to our farm for pickup. So it was nice. I already had a customer base coming to my farm But there is sometimes beef available too, so if people are looking for that. Yes?
How many chickens do you have and where do you find the eggs?
Yeah, so that's one of the questions I like to have people ask when we're on the tour, because I'll say, take a deep breath and tell me what you smell. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, what do you smell? Grass. Anything else? I don't know, fresh air. So how many animals do you think are here? Right now, I have about 150, 160 laying hens. I have 100 meat chickens. We'll have 18 turkeys. We'll have 14 pigs. And this is at the tour time. The turkeys won't be there. And then we're at about 45 sheep right now. But because they're on pasture, because they're moved, because you don't have an accumulation of manure in any one spot, it doesn't smell. And so people are always amazed at how many animals we have because of the management practice. When you confine it in a spot and you get an accumulation of the manure, it smells. And then you asked,
Where do you find all the eggs?
so
Do they lay them all
that's
over?
why I don't start chores until 10 in the morning. I love the heritage breed of chickens. Do people know the difference between heritage and commercial chickens? Mm-hmm. Heritage are the old-fashioned breeds, the pretty colors, the pretty eggs. You know, they lay 5 eggs a week. They lay for 3 to 5 years. They probably lay 200 eggs over their lifetime. But they want to sit on their eggs. They want to hatch them out. So if I let them out too early, my eggs will be all over the place, and it will be an Easter egg hunt to find them. I have customers who want my eggs. So that is the last coop that I open. And you will find a whole bunch of chickens huddled by the door waiting to run out, and they go spurting. And then you'll find a couple of eggs where they were trying to hold it until they could leave, and it didn't work. The commercial, then we decided that we could do better. And it's the same with sheep. It's the same with beef. It's the same with pigs. We wanted chickens that laid more eggs. So they bred specifically for layers. And those layers will lay the same amount of eggs as my heritage breed chickens, but they're done in 2 years. So they're soup chickens. And I have some of those because we have lots of egg customers. But I like the heritage breeds. We have Polish. Does anybody know what a Polish chicken looks like? They've got this fluffy, they look like one of the carnival dancers. They've got this big fluffy top and everybody loves them. Yes, Phyllis Diller.
I have this.
Yep. So.
Do they lay colored eggs? Mostly the.
When we used to take our kids to the zoo when they were little, no, they lay white eggs. But what color eggs do chickens lay?
Any color. Any color.
Brown, green, blue.
Typically brown and white, but you have Americanas and Aracanas, which lay like a blue-green egg. And now they have rainbow eggers or Easter eggers because they've crossed breeds and they'll lay cream or different things like that. But when we used to take the kids to the zoo when they were little, the farm area had a sign, chickens lay brown or white eggs. I had to go find a zookeeper and let her know about Americana and Aracanas that lay the blue-green eggs. And the next time we went back, that was on the sign.
Is there a difference in the yolk in the blue-green versus the white or brown?
No. What the difference in your yolk is how the chicken is raised. If they're raised on pasture, that they can get the chlorophyll from the plants, the clovers, the grasses, you'll have a rich orange egg. Although Purdue likes to advertise that he feeds the marigolds and then he gets that rich, color. And you can buy feed that has supplements to try and mimic that now. But I mean, Perk Place buys our eggs, a restaurant in Hartford, and she loved our eggs because the chickens, you'll see them, they're running around all over the place during the day. They've got a bright orange yolk, and she didn't have to put yellow food coloring into her lemon meringue pies or her hollandaise sauce, or what else is yellow that she made? I don't know. Oh, lemon curd.
Yeah, lemon curd.
Anyone else? Yes.
So if we would, after your open house on a Saturday morning, what do you have most things other than lamb?
You mean meat and stuff to buy or what?
Yes.
So because everything's raised on the pasture, we have eggs now. We won't have any chicken in the store until the end of June, beginning of July. We do have the pork in there now because we just got that sow. We have our own honeybees, and did you know that they used to medicate honeybees? They used to tell you had to feed them penicillin And when we first got our bees, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing my own bees because I don't want to medicate them. So we have raw honey. Has anybody eaten at Wine Maniacs in Oconomowoc? Yeah, their chef will wait for our honey. He says he doesn't know what we do, but our honey is the best that he's had of like 16 different farms that he's bought it from. But we don't spray. We have a variety of clovers in our hay pasture. We cut in sections so that it's not all cut at once. Yeah, I'm off track again. So honey is end of July. What else do we have? I don't have any extra turkeys. They're sold out, so there might be some chicken again, the end of in October. And if you want to be added to the email list, you can ask to be added to it. And then, like I said, it goes out end of February, beginning of March, and just get your order in right away because my pigs sold out in 24 hours. I couldn't believe it.
What do you do with your beeswax?
My husband threw it out. I'm like, what are you doing? I know, so he's a beekeeper, so. Anybody else? Yes,
Do you have roosters?
yes. You do not need roosters. I think they're pretty, but you have too many roosters and they take their job too seriously and we have hens without feathers. So we limit the number of roosters we have. Yes.
Are you butchering your own animals or do you take them some way to be butchered?
Pigs and sheep have to go to be done in an inspected kill floor if they're being sold to customers. So they go into Garing's Meat Market, and then if you were to order lamb or pork from us, you give them your cutting instructions. Don't know how they came to the number, but we can process up to 999 chickens and turkeys on our farm. So we do those. Anybody else? Thank you so much for your time. Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time and your wonderful appreciation.
Kind of got us a little bit.
No, I love that.
So we do have products at the back. We do have information. Whenever they tell you.
Yes, I'm gonna say, maybe like 15 minutes, go shop, go chat, and then we'll start the business meeting around 7:15.
I'm gonna set it up